Welcome to season 3 of the Living and Learning podcast. We are so excited to hear more about how our mission statement is actually lived out across each of our programs. We're going to hear stories about excellent academics, living in community, and what it looks like to engage in the world with a biblical worldview. We are so excited to spend some time with you together. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Living and Learning podcast. If I haven't had the chance to meet you yet, my name is Sara, and I get to help with enrolling students to several of our semester programs with Living and Learning International. And I get to be with an awesome guest today who was a previous student during one of our semester programs. So Sophie is with us today. I am so excited to hear from her, and just specifically we'll talk through today kind of the lens of our mission statement that is engaging in the challenges of the world through the lens of a biblical Christian worldview. So Sophie's gonna tell us some stories about that. But Sophie, tell us who you are. Tell us a little bit about you before we jump in.
Hi, everyone. I am Sophie Cobb. I go to Cedarville University, and I attended the Rome semester for spring 2025.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you had some, you just are starting your fall semester, right? When did fall semester start?
Fall semester, I moved in, I think it was around August 16th. That kind of weekend has been weekend for us, so it's been around a month.
Yeah. I'm excited to hear stories about what your semester was like in Rome, but even as you're transitioning back to the States and jumping back into university there. I'm excited to hear about that too. So before Sophie jumps in to tell us all kinds of stories, we are going to take a quick break and then we'll be right back.
Hey, this is Bethany, the Director of Operations and Outreach at Living and Learning International, and I have a quick invitation for you. I hear people tell me all the time, I wish I would have studied abroad before I graduated. Well, I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to spend time abroad and earn credit towards your degree. If you're ready for an incredible cross-cultural experience, consider spending a summer away with Living and Learning. During your summer away, you'll earn internship credit toward your degree from a unique internship placement related to your area of study. You'll also get the opportunity to dive into the culture of Quito, Ecuador, explore the wonders of the East Coast, or walk through history in Rome, Italy. Students who spend a summer away develop unique skills that get you career ready while you're immersed in a new culture. If you're ready to apply for this life-changing experience, visit livingandlearninginternational.com.
Awesome, Sophie. So I know one of the really cool components about doing a semester in Rome with us is that you'll have the opportunity to take a course about the Apostle Paul, and I know you're able to participate in that class. So can you just tell us a little bit about what that class is like and kind of paint a picture of that course for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Apostle Paul class, it kind of sounds self-explanatory. So we basically talked all things Apostle Paul. We learned about his life when he was Saul before he was Paul. We learned about his entrance into his own ministry and how he developed his own faith through his different missionary journeys and the hardships he faced during those different journeys as well. I didn't know much about the Apostle Paul before. I'd heard about him, but I was like, oh my gosh, there are so many things to know about Paul and the things he did in his ministry. And I think one of my favorite things about this class is that it was very discussion based. So we had a lot of opportunities to ask questions and make statements and just talk through different aspects of Paul's life and about just the content that we learned. So I think it definitely helped get a good understanding of ministry and his missionary journeys and things like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. And I'm curious, even for you, what was kind of your, just like a little bit about your faith background, like where you came from when you were entering into this course, and then through the duration of the course, how did the class specifically kind of help continue to shape your faith or to help shape your worldview as you were in that class?
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian home and I was raised in the church. So the Lord has been a part of my life, and my faith has been a part of my life forever. And so coming into this program in Rome, I was really excited to connect with other believers and just see what learning would be like in a different space like this. But this class specifically helped me to realize like how interesting it is to dive into the Bible stories and truly understand like the background of where they come from. And learning about Paul's story specifically kind of redirected my perspective on radical faith, and it definitely helped me to know how I can be loud about my faith in situations where it might not be as accepted or it might not be comfortable for me to talk about it. But I think that's something I can continue to bring not only to my school but also in my career once I'm out of school as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And even thinking about, yeah, that term radical faith and how different moments in our lives give us new perspective to those types of things. And so, yeah, I wonder if even as you were in that course and learning about Paul's radical faith, like what were there pieces about Paul's story specifically that you were like, whoa, that is a moment where Paul exercised some radical faith, and I want to practice that. I want to see what that would be like in my life.
Yeah, so a lot of the concepts that we learned about was like the different hardships that Paul faced on his missionary journeys. And he faced a lot of persecution and a lot
Yeah.
of torture. One of the things, like, he was held in Mamertine prison, which is one of the places that we actually got to visit. But we learned about
Mm.
how he continued his ministry in prison. And I'm like, that is just so amazing to me that I'm like, how can I sit here and be afraid to be loud about my faith when Paul was actively being held capture for his trying to spread the gospel, but he continued to do it anyways. So just hearing about the ways that he didn't let the persecution or the torture or the hardship stop him from speaking about his love for Christ and trying to help others come to that faith as well.
Yeah, yeah. That is, and even just physically being in the spaces where Paul walked. Like that is I can't even
Insane.
imagine. Like, yeah, that's literally insane. And I can't even imagine the, yeah, what that must have felt like and the just insight that you received from physically being where Paul was. So, even tell us a little bit about that. Like, tell us about some of the excursions that you were able to go on as part of the course, and yeah, just what that was like for your faith to physically be in those same spaces that the apostle was.
Yeah, so one of them was obviously the Mamertine prison. Another awesome one was we went to ancient Corinth in Greece, which was so cool to see that because that's where Paul spent a couple months between his missionary journeys doing some work,
Mm,
and also continuing his ministry where he could. We also visited the St. Paul's outside the walls Basilica, which is where he's buried. So there's a lot of tribute to him in there as well. And then also the Tre Fontane, which is the three fountains is the translation for that, and it's believed to be where Paul was murdered, and so it's just like a all of these places like you can the presence of the Lord is palpable, and
hmm,
it's like so surreal to say that I even went to these places because it's one thing to read about them in the Bible and talk about them in class, but to actually walk in these places where Paul walked and where Jesus walked, it's I can't even believe that this is something that anyone can have the opportunity to do.
totally.
And just feeling the Lord's presence was just another level because I know how the Lord works and moves here at home, but being able to see like being in these new places and seeing how the Lord has worked and moved in these places that I've never been to before either is just a good reminder of how big He is and
Yeah.
how big our faith can be too.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I think that is actually really important. And I would love to even hear more about that from you of like, yeah, that the reality that, you know, in our home context or in the context that we come from, we know the Lord well, maybe because we're familiar in that space, we're comfortable in that space. That's maybe where we grew up knowing the Lord. And so if we were people of faith. And so yeah, what was that even like for you to be in a physically, obviously you were in a different place, and physically you were in spaces where the apostle Paul walked and Jesus walked, but you were physically in a new place, spiritually you were experiencing new things, emotionally you were experiencing new things. So yeah, what was that like to be experiencing new things because of the new place that you were in?
I think it kind of redirected the way I look at my faith, honestly, because this might n- sound a little dumb to say, but it's
Mm-mm.
like it just was kind of surprising to me how I can truly find the Lord anywhere. And it's
Yeah.
like being in this new place, like leaving the country for 3 months for the first time leaving the country was very out of character for me. Like, I
Mm,
am a big homebody. I love to be around my people. So this was something that it was majorly stepping out of my comfort zone. But seeing how the Lord could kind of ground me in these places just because I knew like this is where He had been, and I knew this is where He wanted me because I was able to get these new experiences and experience this with new people who shared the same values and loves as I did. So I think it just kind of helped me know that I can have my faith anywhere. My faith will follow me everywhere.
yeah.
And I don't know, it was just very encouraging, I think, when
Yeah.
I'm in a space that's very much out of my comfort zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I think even speaks to you and your willingness and your boldness to step into a space that you knew was going to be uncomfortable, but you also know like risk reward, right? Like I'm going to risk
Mhm.
something big because I believe in what the reward is going to be.
Mhm.
And so even as, you know, as you're talking right now, even I'm wondering like, yeah, were there some things that you learned about the Lord that were surprising or that were like, whoa, I did not like I did not realize this aspect of who the Lord was, and I was able to uncover that because of this experience that I had abroad.
Yeah, so I think growing up, it's really easy to have, I guess you could say, your parents' faith because
Yeah.
you grow up in the church and this is what you're raised on believing. Um, and I think once I got to like middle school and high school, that's when I kind of fell back a little bit in following my own faith. And I think being able to come into a new place away from my family and away from what I knew helped me to grow my dependence and build my own kind of faith because of what I was seeing and what I was learning.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important to be able to experience that because having a faith that's not your own is not rewarding, and it can only be rewarding and beneficial when you're actively seeking it yourself. And I think I was able to gain a new perspective on that for myself and other people in my life as well.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so good. That idea that if your faith is not your own, it's not rewarding. Like, I think that
Mm.
is actually a really powerful statement. And I think that's really significant because not only is it not rewarding because it's not actually something that you take on for yourself, but then I just think about the people in my life who have been formative in my faith journey. they were really important to me because I trusted them, because those experiences were something that they had gone through themselves. They weren't just talking about something as if it was just knowledge or theory. They
Mhm.
they had practiced it, they had experienced it for themselves. And so then I believed them, because I was like, "Oh, if you experience that, maybe I can too." And
Mhm.
so I think for you to have, yeah, wrestled that out, and even in Rome during that semester to continue to have wrestled that out of like, what does it mean for my faith to be my own, and for me to again make a decision that was risky, because it was uncomfortable or whatever the case may be, but you you knew what the reward would be, in the sense that you were going to find a community, you were going to experience the Lord deeper, you were going to have a deeper sense of your faith being your own. And I think study away opportunities provide really powerful like moments for that to take place. So
Mhm.
thanks for sharing that, because I think that's really important for students listening to hear and to know. So yeah, I'm excited. We're gonna take one more quick break, but I'm excited to hear even a little bit more about what that's been like for you upon returning back to your home university. So stick with us, and we will come right back to hear a little bit more from Sophie.
Hi, I'm Rachel Ruskowski, Director of Experiential Tours with Living and Learning International, and I would love to invite you today to start planning your study abroad program for next year. We would love to connect you directly with one of our regional program managers that will work with you to create a custom experience for you and your students. So what are you waiting for? Send us an email and let's get started.
Awesome, Sophie. Yeah, it's been so good to hear from you and from some of these experiences that you had in Rome. And you've kind of alluded to some of this already, but yeah, am even just excited to hear what that has felt like as you've returned back to your home context, and how your worldview is even continuing to develop now that you're back home after you've had this experience. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about what that process has kind of been like.
Yeah, so returning home definitely felt a little weird
Yeah.
because I've never been away from my home for that long, let alone being in a different country for that long. But I think it's truly, especially after the Apostle Paul class, it's truly helped me to gain a better appreciation for missions and the mission
Hmm.
field, because stepping into these new places like Rome, or when we travel to different countries and seeing the different hierarchies of religion and places where the presence of the Lord just isn't there, and it's not a championed thing how it might be like in my school or at my house and like where I live. It's like that was a big thing that I had to sit and think about because, of course, before going to Rome, I knew that there were places where the Lord wasn't a big topic of discussion. And I grew up in my church supporting many missionaries and connecting with many missionaries and hearing about their stories. But after physically going to these places, it helped me to fully appreciate the work that they're doing, especially the work that Apostle Paul was doing. And I think it kind of lit a fire inside of me a little bit and
Hmm.
wanting to experience more maybe missionary experiences in my future when I have the ability to, and seeing how the gospel can be spread in these new places and new countries is so encouraging to see so many people who have a genuine care for spreading the gospel.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so fun to think about all of the ways that students are impacted by a semester abroad. And sometimes, like how you're feeling now, of like students have a new perspective of like, whoa, the Lord can literally launch me anywhere. And the Lord has already launched people literally all over the world. And so I think that's really beautiful to think about this experience for you in Rome sort of being like a launching pad into all of the things that the Lord has for you. And it's so cool to even hear you processing that, you know, maybe before studying abroad, this was never like you would have never considered that. Like you love your people, you love your community, you love being in your home context, which again, like there's nothing wrong with that. That's really beautiful in a lot of ways too. But to think about the ways that your experience in Rome has just kind of opened your eyes to the entire world and and what the Lord is doing literally around the world, I think
Mhm.
is really powerful. And that's really beautiful for um students to know once they return that like your semester that you just had doesn't have to be the only time that you ever do that. So
Mhm.
that's exciting to hear that you're, yeah, even thinking about like continuing in mission mindedness, whether that's like maybe one day you firsthand experiencing that as a missionary, or supporting, continuing to support missionaries, which is, that's a super important work, because they're going into areas of the world where, like you're saying, Jesus isn't necessarily welcomed. So
Mhm.
I'm excited for what that will look like for you. That's awesome.
Ew.
Yeah. That's awesome. And even as you're finishing, you, I think, shared that you're in your junior year now.
Mhm.
Um, do you feel like your semester has impacted the way that you want to even like finish your college career, and yeah, the type of person you want to continue to grow into um, as you wrap up these last couple years?
Yeah, so I'd say the transition back into normal school has been an adjustment for sure,
Yeah.
because learning in a normal context is a lot different than how I was learning there.
Yeah.
But I think it has also helped me to kind of want to find myself specifically and where my career will be.
Hmm.
I'm majoring in finance, and I'm starting my specific classes actually this semester. So I'm kind of getting more of a grasp on what that will look for me in my future. And I think it's also really helping me to see how I can implement my faith into this, and how I can find opportunities to share my experiences in my career and use my experiences to grow my dependence and like carving new paths for myself, I would think.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
um, because I've never been like dead set, like I know exactly what I want to do with my life. And that's caused me to have a couple crash outs, I won't lie.
Mm.
Um but I think being able to have the experience of going into a place with a lot of unknowns and a lot of questions is comforting to know that I can handle that and I
Yeah.
can find my way in those experiences. And so I'm really excited to see how I can utilize those skills when I actually do step into a career.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. And even that, for you to have that perspective already of the type of person you want to be after you graduate, and that the experiences, like you're being really thoughtful about the experiences you're having, and how you want to make sure you continue to remember those things or apply the things that you learn, so that when you enter into those spaces in the future, you are just more mindful of yourself, and you're not going about something in a way that is careless. Like you're being really thoughtful and being really intentional about applying the experiences you've already had. So I'm excited for you and for the future of how you'll finish your college career, but then even stepping beyond that, the type of person that the Lord will continue to grow you to be, and how I think a study away semester, you never stop learning or remembering that semester. And so even just thinking about, as you continue to grow, what the Lord will remind you of or continue to impress upon you throughout the rest of your life. So, Sophie, it has been so sweet to just learn from you and from the experiences that you've had, and how, this semester helped kind of in your path of the worldview that you've been shaped by, and how your faith in the Lord has been an anchor in that. So, thanks so much for sharing stories with us today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, you're the best, Sophie. We will talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for spending some time with us on this week's episode of the Living and Learning podcast. If you want to learn more about us, you can follow us on Instagram or find our website in the show notes of this episode. We cannot wait to get to know you more throughout this process.